Hey guys, good to catch up. We've got a few time zones on here. Myself and Om in Thailand, Mercy in East Africa, Jim in which part of the US? On the
Near Washington, D.C., Annapolis.
Okay, well, the opportunity here is just to share a bit of the different people within the organization and the work we do. And I'll kick off because this isn't a standard podcast. My name is Matt. I'm the COO of Biochar Life. I've been with the organization just over a year, but I've been connected with the organization for a lot longer. I live in the north of Thailand. And I'm surrounded by smallholder farmers, and at the wrong time of year, I'm surrounded by lots of smoke pollution. And a big part of, I think, my inspiration with being part of this organization is that we solve this smoke issue. We give farmers a new way to deal with crop waste, to stop burning, and from that, teach them how to create biochar, this magic solution that removes carbon and has all these other benefits that we're gonna talk about. And hopefully we can share some stuff on this session, but it's not just about this session. We'd love people to get in touch and ask more questions as we go through this Wefunder campaign over the next few months. Whoever'd like to kick off in the team, just an intro, what you do. Maybe we'll go to you next. Just give us a bit of background on your history with the organization, what you do, and what it means to you.
Okay, thank you, Matt. My name is Om Kwanpirom Thara. I live in Thailand. Actually, I live in Chiang Mai, like 2 hours away from you. Yeah. I worked on biochar projects about 8 years already. It started when Chiang Mai, we had really worse air pollutions, PM 2.5, and it rise up to 800. I travel to explore the world around. On that year, I came back to my hometown in Chiang Mai, and it's like surprise, it shocked me. What is the cause of this? And the most air pollution is from burning. I did some research on what people burn, where is the source of smoke came from, and finally I end up with agriculture waste management because I cannot deal with the forest fire, and I don't think I can deal with industrial, like pollutions also, because that will be involved with a policy. So I start to learn about how to make biochar and how to convince farmer to make and use biochar since 2016 up to now. That's a little bit of background how I start, know about biochar and why I'm interested in biochar. During this year until now, they are the way, or I see why people are interested to make biochar. I train like over 7,000 farmer, but not all of them back to the farm and do it. There have to be some incentive or motivation for them to do, which is if they understand the value of the crop waste they have, and if we support them on what they need, they will definitely do it.
Cool. Thanks, Om. And we'll dive in a little bit more to the work you've been doing in Africa. I know you're back in Thailand. Once we get back to, we'll go around the group first. But Mercy, perhaps you'd like to jump in first. And it looks beautiful where you are. You've got a good background. I'm assuming that's not a virtual background. It's a real background, right?
It's a real one. Thank you for having me, Matt. My name is Mercy Ogembo. I am a Kenyan living in Kisumu City. I'm the country manager for Biochar Life in Kenya, and I am responsible for overseeing all our biochar activities, which include biochar production and application processes. And I also overall see the management of our verifier team that works directly with the farmers on the ground. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Mercy. And again, yeah, we'll dig into some of the stuff you're doing in Kenya on the ground there shortly. And Jim, sorry to leave you last, mate, but yeah, give us a bit of an intro and a bit of background.
Oh, Matt, I always like to be last because it gives me a chance to learn from all the others. Um, I'm Jim Greenberg. I'm the chairman of Biochar Life. I live on the Severn River near Annapolis, Maryland, just off the Chesapeake Bay. But I've known Michael and Evelyn for about 15 years and have followed their progress all that period of time and assisted here and there. But then was very busy with other philanthropic endeavors with Grameen Foundation, restoring corals, and also had a full-time job for most of that time. But when I was approached by Warm Heart Worldwide in 2002 to assist the scaling of the low-tech, low-cost solution to train smallholder farmers to produce biochar and sequester it in their soils, and then also vision of being able to sell the carbon credit to finance it. I said, "My God, this is another microfinance in the waiting." The I was over 20 years on the board of both supporting and then on the board of Grameen Foundation. Most of the activities I was involved in was in the MENA region, Middle East, North Africa, and India. But when we first got started 25 years ago or so, there could almost number the number you could a number of borrowers in microfinance, and maybe 10 million or less, loan portfolio of around $6 or $7 billion. Now it's 140 million borrowers with $24 billion of $124 billion of loan portfolio. I saw what we're doing with biochar as something that could duplicate that. You take a look at the potential of 500 million smallholder farmers, most of them very poor, but also what the most of the country's agricultural production depends on those smallholder farmers. The degradation in their soils due to overuse, chemical fertilizers, erosion, and so forth. And I said, how could you not want to be involved with a solution that cuts across agriculture, climate change, food security, poverty, and health? I call them interrelated social issues, and you need something that will cut across all of those to cost effectively address them. So I jumped at the chance to become involved. Eventually became the chairman and provided the seed capital to get started. And my job is, number one, to be a cheerleader. I'm totally convinced that this will be a financially sustainable social unicorn as it grows. You've got 500 million farms supporting 2.5 billion people in the world. You've got 10 gigatons of carbon dioxide that need to be removed prior to 2050, and 20 gigatons per year after that. So the demand is almost infinite and the need is infinite. So all we have to do is put the pieces together to make it grow, expand it, be an example to others. Thank you.
Cool. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's a bit of a no-brainer when you look at the resources, the supply or sorry, the demand and what we have as supply. I think it's we've got an interesting and hopeful decade ahead with the work we do. I'm going to ask you a bit more about Grameen in a minute. Before I do, I wanted to jump back to Om and Mercy. It'd be great to hear from you guys. If you talk about the last couple of years, just how you've seen things change and grow. You've been around for years now, kind of training farmers. Biochar Life is more recent, but ultimately it's kind of grown out of that process of training farmers to create biochar. Mercy, not so long, but still a fair while now. I mean, maybe I'm starting with you. Talk to a bit about what you've seen, change, how you've seen things develop in over the last number of years, and particularly in the last kind of 12, 18 months.
Yeah, I can see the change of the biochar. Um, I mean, it's not just like my feeling. I still remember before COVID, two, 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, yeah.
On that time, I still trained farmer, but I invited them. I really have to convince them to make biochar and to use biochar. But after you know um the COVID hit, and last year I received more message from my network, and they say this group, this village want to learn biochar without me going there and ask to train them. That's a big change, like I want to educate them, and but this time it's like they want to come to me and learn from me. Previously, they just don't want any biomass in their farm, and they just want to get rid of them very fast, so that's why they do open field burn. If someone come there and then go there, visit the farm and took the biomass, they will willing to give it for you. But this time they will be like, no, let me organize my biomass if I need them before I give it to you. Or if you want to make biochar from the biomass in my field, then I have some benefit share on that. I think this is like change. That what I see.
Is that change, is that something you've seen both in Thailand and in East Africa, or are you talking mostly in East Africa you've seen that change?
No, I mainly in Thailand,
Yeah.
and also the demands of the biochar change too. Yeah, before, like, it's really difficult to try and sell to market, but now it's like market are looking for supply.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in Africa, I think farmer Mercy did really good job. They don't want to give the biomass to anyone else. They want to have the biomass because the biomass, like the corn stalk, is a part of what they grow. They sell maize, and they want to use the maize stalk to make biochar to create more value for their own. So I cannot really tell what's the change in Africa, because what I saw, it's they already see the value of them, of
Okay.
the, yeah.
That's interesting. I asked you that question. You kind of answered it at the end there because, yeah, I've seen a lot more interest in Thailand now as well, particularly this year as the burning season's starting. You were getting a lot of inquiries about biochar, both from not just how to make biochar, but we're getting a lot of buyer inquiries around Southeast Asia now, not just East Africa. Mercy, perhaps you'd like to add to that. I'd love to hear, obviously, your experience kind of longer in terms of being on the ground there and working, with these communities and being part of the process. What are some of the challenges and opportunities, and what are you seeing change?
Thank you, Matt. Maybe I would start by telling the world how I got to know of this biochar
Cool.
and what has inspired me to be part of biochar life to date. I was introduced to biochar in November 2019. There is one Sister Miriam Paulette in Malawi. She is a Kenyan, but living in Malawi as a Catholic nun. So she traveled back to Kenya in one of her errands, visitations. Then, back in the villages or in the church, she announced that she would like to teach people of this superchar that has vast functions and can change the lives of so many of the Africans or of the Kenyans in particular. So I was in the congregation. So in one of the trainings I joined, that was in November 2019. And from her teachings, the theory part, then to the practicals part, and to the application of biochar and the benefits that come with embracing this biochar made me feel like this is the great deal. And why did I consider it a great deal? Matt, I come from a poor background. Where I come from, poverty is our second name. Right now, I might be here with you in this podcast, but you say like, why do you say you are from a poor background and here you are, maybe well groomed or something? It is just that education is an equalizer. Because my parents struggled to see me go to school and get to where I am, that's why I am this groomed. But for me to get here, my parents really struggled. We could go without meals. And not going without meals and expecting that maybe you will request a neighbor to give you food. That neighbor also didn't have the food. So, like, poverty was glaring in our faces. It's like it was written on our forehead. So, when Sister Miriam told us that with this biochar, you could get increase in crop yields, you could get increase in milk production for your cows, egg production, the soil structure would improve. And I was like, maybe this was the only God sent chance for us to change and change for the better. Then I said, we will embark on the trainings. So I was among the people who took it upon themselves to train people in the villages. So why I was inspired to stick to biochar life, just from the background that I've given, is two things: poverty and the good health for my grandma. Why am I saying the good health for my grandmother? My grandmother is just like any other African who could till her land but get nothing in return because the soils were pathetic and he couldn't get even the chemical fertilizers to use or anything. So after she has waited for long and there is no harvesting, she could openly burn those feedstocks in the farm with the optimism mind that when she tries second season, things will go fine. Back at home, also no source of fuel. So the same maize stalks, she could again carry them and use them raw as it is to cook. That really affected her health because she could cough oftenly because of the carbon dioxide that was being emitted in the air. So she was so much into coughing and all that. So if again we were trained that this same biochar can be used as a source of fuel after you've made the biochar, and this one would be free of carbon dioxide, and it would contribute to the good health of the community. And in that, I saw the good health of my grandmother. So these two aspects, the poverty back at our home and the good health of my grandma, was the driving force that made me feel like this biochar life is a do or die. I either embrace it and change the life of the entire community or abandon it and we all vanish. So that is where my journey with biochar life began. And now, as I speak as the country manager for biochar life in Kenya, we've trained 7,000 farmers. The training wasn't a walk in the park, yes, at the beginning, because at the beginning, like all of us didn't know the benefits of biochar. The few of us who had learnt it now traversed the villages to preach this gospel. So it wasn't easy convincing them that this superchar has vast functions that can make us have a transformed life and a good environment. But right now, it isn't a challenge because people have tried it, testimonies are there. This neighbor sees the farmer's land doing well. This that has not used is seeing her land, her farm dying, not giving yields. The two are juxtaposed and it speaks for itself. So to date, it's not difficult because everyone has known the benefit. Maybe the only challenge now comes in getting the more funds to reach more farmers. You know, we can want to even train 20,000 plus in Kenya, but you cannot get there if you don't have the funds to carry us through. And again, we don't just want this, the sweetness of biochar to die in Kenya. We are traversing the whole of East Africa. We've tried training in Uganda. We've also trained in Tanzania. But you know, going there and doing more trainings equally needs funds. So in a way, we are limited. But overall, the transition has been smooth. Smooth because the villagers or the farmers have known the benefits of biochar. And you find that at some point it is the villagers themselves who come to ask for us to train them. And where do they get us to tell us this? When we are working with the already 400 farmers that are on our CSync program, the villagers will not just sit back and watch from a distance. Some that have already been trained and are not in the program, some that are wishing to be trained and learn this. So they're always there to see what others are doing. And this alone, Matt, makes me sleep well at night because I'm peaceful that this biochar gospel that I'm spreading is reaching far and wide. So maybe in our continuous conversations, I'll tell you more depending on what you want to hear.
That's
For
cool.
now, back to you.
That's inspirational words, Mercy. It's quite a story, and yeah, I think good for everyone listening to better hear that. And also, I mean, there's something interesting in there. I think we are ultimately our business expands and grows because of the sale of carbon removal credits. But the truth is that is only one part of what we do, because biochar as a product, which you so well communicated there, does so much more than just remove carbon. There's so many other benefits, and to hear it from you on the ground there and understand that is great. I just wanted to add for everyone else, that's on here, please chip in. We don't need to, if you want to kind of butt in or have things to say when other people are speaking, let's, we can make it interactive, and please do. It doesn't need to be me just asking the questions, because I could see, on wanting to jump in on that and had stuff to add, and Jim, feel free. I mean, maybe Jim, I'm sure you can respond to some of what Mercy said, but before you do, I suppose just in the essence of, do you see parallels? You mentioned a few of them, but in the journey you went through with Grameen, in terms of what we are becoming in terms of this space, and the effect and the impact that we are having and will continue to have.
Oh, thank you, Matt. Really, I'd like to add one other thing as far as Mercy's motivation. The Carmelite nun, Kenyan Carmelite nun, who went down to Malawi to get all this started, is her aunt.
Okay.
and she is a force of nature. So I understand how Mercy became a force of nature too.
Well, you were down there recently, right? So you did a bit of a tour, and you met the teams and spent some time on the ground there, right?
I spent 2 weeks in Malawi, Kenya, and Tanzania visiting our teams, and I have to say one thing that totally impressed me that I was not prepared for was the depth of the human resource base there in those countries. And I expect East Africa as a whole. Sure, it's got problems, but at the end of the day, If the people are motivated and committed and can see a value for the time, they're in it. They're right in there.
Yeah.
So Mercy and her team, Sylvester and his team, and Malawi, the Tanzanian group we're working with, these guys are good. So but in terms of parallel with Grameen Foundation, I first of all got involved with Grameen Foundation in late 1999. Um, I also come from a small farm in Arkansas, and was lucky enough to get picked to go to New England for school, and then London, and then Boston, and so forth. And just like Mercy, education was my route out. And so the kind of a parallel to Mercy's background to some degree. But I think the parallel I see when I, in 1999, when I got involved, made a pretty significant contribution, got matched by Steve Rockefeller Jr., so we started out with a nice capital base. No one had heard of microfinance. So everyone you talk to, you first had to spend about 15 minutes trying to convince them that you could lend money, $50 and $100 loans to poor people, and you actually get it back. Um, Took incredible amount of work, but that's resulted in a huge difference in hundreds of millions of people's lives. The progression is people become they start a small business, a food trading business on the side of the road. That's successful. They get another loan. They start another business, and pretty soon they have other people working for them in some category. So I see the same kind of progression with biochar and smallholder farmers. I think we have to understand that we are in a startup industry. We're a startup ourselves, and we're in a startup industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
The whole concept of agriculture, of the role that agriculture and the earth plays in carbon dioxide removal and sequestration, the whole carbon offset market, it's all in the startup mode. We're almost leading that effort on the smallholder farmer category, being the first entity that's accredited to do this work. But so I see an exact parallel. The early years are hard. You have to convince people, but I have to say, 2 years ago when I first got started, you had to start your conversations by talking about what biochar is.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to know what biochar is now.
Yeah, particularly
Uh,
in the last few months. To be honest, I think there's been a big shift in the awareness around what biochar is. You're right. I mean, it's
I
suddenly,
think
yeah,
part of it was the realization that the previous days of carbon offsets was dominated by, let's say, questionable verification practices and so forth, leading to a lot of carbon credits being bogus. That caused an upset in the market for about a year, but gradually people began to realize that biochar, as a nature-based solution, is and scientifically proven, um, is a huge answer to that.
yeah,
Not the only answer. There are around 7, 8, 10 different solutions um, using different nature-based solutions, but biochar is just dominating the field right now. And as we go along, the technology associated with biochar production will improve. So it'll be the natural progression. But one thing I like to note, one of the things that back in 2016, there was a test by a scientific group funded by a U.S. Organization to do a pilot project in Tanzania. Only 172 farmers. They um, they ran the program for about 3 years, proved beyond a shadow of a doubt the value of biochar in agricultural soils, eliminating chemical fertilizers, enhanced crop yields, um, adding organic carbon back into the soils, et cetera, et cetera. But they found that it didn't sustain itself over time. And the conclusion was there needed to be a business model to add the sustainment factor to keep people from going to the work of gathering their crop waste, drying it, and making the biochar. We bring that business base with the sale of carbon dioxide credits and paying the farmers from the carbon dioxide credits.
Yeah, I think part of the, I mean, we could do this work as a non-profit if the carbon markets didn't exist. I think that's, ultimately there's so much benefit we give anyway. But I think the business model is so important to see, the kind of scale we're looking at. I mean, that really does make a massive difference between, hey, we're going to work with a few thousand farmers to, hey, we're going to work with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of farmers. I mean, I think that's really where the crux of the fact there's a business model within what we do makes a huge difference, frankly.
That's the key point, Matt. One of about 20 years and working in nonprofits, I became a total devotee of the fact that there's not enough philanthropic capital in the world to adequately address the problems of the world. You've got to attract commercial capital.
Yeah.
And to do that, you've got to offer a return. And that's the mother of the idea of impact investing, where people will invest not only to make a social difference, but also to have a return. Doesn't have to be a massive return. At least get a return of capital with some benefit, and we bring that. So that's I think. Like I say, I just can't understand why people aren't banging on the doors to get involved.
Well, it's happening. I mean, maybe a good segue. We grew 5x pretty much last year, which is kind of staggering growth for any small startup, and that doesn't come without its teething challenges. Anything growing fast. I mean, Mercy, for me, I'm more kind of looking after the demand side of our business, and I'm spending a lot of time, as well as we speak all the time, but I'm also speaking to buyers, and I'm seeing growth on that side with more credits being bought, with more revenue generated. But what was your experience last year in terms of the growth that we had versus the year before? I mean, did you find pressure points, additional challenges, or was it just smooth sailing? What was some of the kind of the highs and lows and the that you recognized within the last year of growth?
Yeah, for me, I feel it's smooth. We need more. we need more work, and
Which is
more
cool.
biochar.
You know what? In most businesses that grow 5x, the biggest problem is operation. And so, that's the great thing is when it's somewhat unnoticeable, that growth on an operational side, that's a really good sign, because, frankly, there could be kind of 50x growth in the next few years with looking to be, gigaton scale solutions in the market we're in. So,
Okay, that's
And
nice.
if I can also talk about the experience last year and this year, for sure there was growth, yes, and we sold the many tons that you've already mentioned. But again, I feel that we need to do more, because if in the last production, which was last year, we worked with 400 farmers, yet we have a bank of 7,000 farmers that we've trained already.
yeah.
And for the 400 farmers, each produced 3 tons of biochar. In this current production that is ongoing, I was hopeful that we could incorporate more farmers, but we are still at the same 400 farmers doing the same 3 tons of biochar to be produced and used. So I would wish that we grow from the 400 to maybe 800 as we double it, because you already have more farmers who already know the benefits of biochar. they are using it in the farms and making it. But now this extra coin that comes as a bonus in the carbon credit exercise feels that makes us see like we are even empowering them more economically, but in the agricultural way. We are trying to sustain them. But if we could incorporate more who already have this knowledge and know the benefit, then you would see a growth for all the farmers, the growth of a country, a growth that comes with embracing sustainable agriculture through the use of carbon, through the use of biochar. So, just like Omar said, I wish that we could grow from 400 farmers and incorporate more farmers. And again, this will only come if we have the funds taking us back to the demand and supply. Yeah, so if we could get more customers for the biochar that our farmers make and use on their farms, then those particular customers who purchase this biochar from our farmers will make our farmers have a happy face. They'll be smiling all the time because they are healthy, they are empowered, and they can fend their families well. Thank you.
Good. Do you have any, just on that, Mercy, do you have any specific kind of stories and, just examples, I suppose, that you can share of, real stories of real farmers that you know that have benefited through being part of the program and what that impact has been? Obviously, we understand the farming impact. We understand the removal of carbon, the soil health, all of these things, but just the economics of it as well. Do you have any good examples of that and how it's impacted farmers and their families?
Sure, Matt. We've said that the benefits of biochar are already known and the farmers on the ground are seeing it. But now there is this other extra benefit that comes with the extra coin. This extra coin that the farmers in our carbon credit exercise, the 400 that we are working with right now, those 400 farmers have given their testimonies, their stories of how biochar, through biochar life, has changed their lives for the better. I could go and maybe mention all the 400 farmers, but I'm now limited to a few. I'll only highlight the few cases that will represent the benefits that the 400 farmers have seen. For instance, we have this one farmer. She's called Josephine Engefu. Josephine Engefu is one of the farmers in our carbon credit. And during our last year's production, Josephine Engefu was expectant. She was expecting a child. And she could work. And even at times, we used to tell her that when you are almost getting the delivery time, we will not allow you to do this because we don't want to interfere with the future generation that you are about to give us. Luckily enough, in the after our last production, we had a break. But when she was paid for the carbon credits, it came at an opportune time. And she testified that that particular money helped her with her maternity delivery and medication. And in fact, she calls her baby. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name that she has given to the baby. Should I mention the name of the baby?
I don't think it's a problem mentioning the name of the baby. I'm sure I can't see why
She
there's an
calls
issue with
the
that, but
baby. The
as long as
baby is
she's
called
fine.
Dr. Mike. The baby is called Dr. Michael Schaefer.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
for people who are Well, actually, well, let me explain for people who are watching and do not know what that name means. So Michael founded Warm Heart. Warm Heart founded Biochar Life. Michael is, I suppose, the pioneer within our organization for teaching these communities to make biochar and has been doing it for, I don't know, probably between 10 and 15 years, right? So I know Michael is very well known and very well respected, but I didn't quite realize that well respected where babies are being named after him. So that's quite
Yeah.
a story.
So she said that she named the baby after Dr. Michael Schaefer because it is Dr. Michael Schaefer who brought biochar to them.
That's
So
awesome.
it is through that she's now getting extra coin that can help fend for her medical bills. We also have another farmer by the name Alfred Oginga. Alfred Oginga bought a bull.
Okay.
Yeah. And he said that he particularly went for a bull because a bull in its own is wealth. Yeah. So it's wealth that can appreciate. That is second testimony. We also have Mildred Otieno. Mildred Otieno bought a solar panel. Back in the village, there is no electricity. People go in the people are in the dark during the nights. If you cannot afford to buy kerosene that we use for the small, we call them koroboi. But out of the money that Mildred got from the carbon credit exercise, she managed to buy a solar panel. And let me tell you, Matt, right now, if you go to a center, there is a center called Oyuma Center where they are. You can easily see the village shining out of other villages that are in the dark, thanks to Biochar Life through the carbon credits. And I can also forget to mention another farmer by the name Pauline Anyango. The child had been sent for school fees and she's been out of school for a long time. So this extra penny that she got from Biochar Life made her kid go back to school. And in fact, to date, even though we have two production seasons in Kenya, even if she doesn't have that money immediately the schools open, but she can always go and tell the school principal that I will pay you at this particular time. Because she knows when she has made the biochar, used the biochar in the soil, she'll get paid and she'll take it to school. So it gives her the voice to even negotiate with the principal that don't send my child away from school because after a month, I'll give you the money. If it were not for Biochar Life with the carbon credits, could she even get the voice to negotiate with the principal? No. So, Matt, as I said, I can mention and mention several testimonies, but allow me to stop at 4. Or should
That's
I go
cool.
on and tell you
No,
more?
that's I I we could even maybe do another session where you just talk about testimonies, but I think 4 is enough. And we also list, I know a number of them on our website actually, so some of those I knew about. We don't have the Dr. Michael Schaefer one, which maybe we should list that, but we might have to ask. Now I knew why you were asking permission before. But look, these are great stories, not things I haven't heard, but things that always are good to hear, and I think it's such an important part of the work. So there wasn't necessarily anything else, but I don't know whether as a group there was other things that people wanted to share. This is the first of these sessions that we're trying, so it's just an opportunity to get together, different people from the organization, and talk about what we do. But go for it. Jim, I can see you got your hand up. Go
Yeah.
shout it.
A quick comment. As in everything, our growth will be primarily dependent upon sales of carbon dioxide. The market's gone through a bit of a hiccup this last year, but it's beginning to recover. I know we're in discussions with some very major corporations for major buys. hopefully at least one of those will go through and will provide the demand through which we can double, triple, and quadruple our present production and impact the smallholder farmers. So that's something to be considered. But with 10 gigatons of carbon dioxide that have to be removed, and that's in addition to the enormous amount of reductions in emissions that have to be done. There will be continued pressure amongst nations and politicians to do things, and businesses to do things to remove the existing carbon load from the atmosphere. So, Mercy taught me a song when I was in Africa. Mercy might recall this. Pole pole, atufika, pole pole, atufika. Step by step, we're getting there.
Sure.
Awesome. Cool. Nice way to cap it off. And you got a great singing voice, Jim. We'll have to get you on the karaoke sometime. But cool. Look, thanks, guys. I know we're on. We're definitely covering most of the world here, time zone wise. So, yeah, Jim, enjoy your day. Mercy, enjoy your afternoon. And enjoy your dinner, which I'm about to do. So, and I shall speak to you all again soon.